Hi, everyone. We've set up this Being an Engineer podcast as an industry knowledge repository, if you will. We hope it'll be a tool where engineers can learn about and connect with other companies, technologies, people, resources, and opportunities. So make some connections and enjoy the show.
You know, we have a lot to be grateful for here, especially in the United States. There's so much to be grateful for, but that doesn't mean you should just sit back and expect everything's going to be great. Like, you got to go get after it.
Hello and welcome to the Being an Engineer podcast. We're speaking today with Sam Wicoff, who is a biomedical engineer specializing in the design of mechanical fixtures and PCBs, which form part of production assembly lines. Working closely with third-party vendors and machine shops, Sam handles the entire design lifecycle from design conception to implementation on the production floor. Sam, welcome and thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm thrilled to be here.
All right. I love the enthusiasm. Well, tell me, what made you decide to become an engineer?
Well, I got injured a lot in high school, and I visited the orthopedic so many times that I thought I might want to be an orthopedic surgeon. And my mom suggested in the living room, hey, you should think about biomedical engineering. I applied, I got in, and there are no engineers in my family, but I really loved the coursework. I love the fact that engineering is unambiguous compared to, say, law, which my family has a lot of lawyers in it, and I hear all sorts of stories. So I really like the control you have over your designs. And so,
yeah, that's great. You know, I've heard a lot of different answers about why people chose to become engineers. Getting injured a lot, I can say, in all honesty, is that's the first time I've heard that answer. You look like you might be an athlete. Was the injury like football related or something like that?
It was basketball, non-contact
basketball,
injuries.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Got it. All right, well, cool. I guess kind of along those lines, before we jump into the engineering side of this, what do you like to do outside of work? What are your hobbies?
Yeah, so I like physical fitness quite a bit. I make sure to go to the gym every single day and try to eat healthy. Music is what I do after work. I have been in some bands. I've played piano since I was 7 years old. And since college, I've been producing music electronically. I also read quite a bit, spend time with friends and family. That's obviously super important. And I volunteer as well.
Nice. Okay, so speaking of the volunteering, I wanted to ask you about that. Anyway, I think you had a pretty cool volunteer experience back in 2012 in Nicaragua. Is that right?
Yes.
What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so a little bit of background on that. It was the summer before my senior year of high school, and I decided to be a volunteer with a nonprofit organization called Amigos de las Americas. And the goal of that organization is to develop youth leaders through immersion and community-led projects. So leading up to that summer, any volunteer is required to raise funds, which will be contributed towards a project that their community decides on. And these communities are all dispersed throughout Latin America in different countries. And I was matched with a community in central Nicaragua. It was about 1,000 people. And as someone who's lived in a city their whole life, it was quite a culture shock to go into a community like that. The biggest part of that culture shock being the language barrier. Everyone spoke Spanish, nobody spoke English, and there were only 2 other volunteers with me in that community. Other examples of the culture shock were, we took bucket baths instead of showers. We used a latrine instead of a toilet.
Wow.
Slept on a cot. There were farm animals going under my cot at 5 a.m. It took an adjustment, but soon that stuff did not matter after a week or two. It bothered me at first, but it didn't matter after a little bit. And I got pretty acclimated to community life and grew to really love it, grew to love the people around me. And it was just a life-changing experience. But going back to the funds that we had to raise in our community, the community decided that the best way to use those funds would be to install about 5 or 6 faucets throughout the community. so that there was easier access to water. And someone in the community had a well that we decided to pump water from and distribute from there as the water source. So it was a really gratifying project, and it really went well.
Wow, that's amazing. How fulfilling. Yeah. You talked about community and community life. Can you share a little bit more about that? You mentioned you got used to community life pretty quickly. What does it mean, the community life, and how was it different there than maybe it is here in the States?
So it was different there because everybody knew everybody, and people did not lock their doors during the day. At night, even, you really just closed your door. You didn't lock it. And I ate a meal in every single person's house in the community. So
Wow.
I really got to know everyone as well. And by the end of it, it was basically my family. And to be honest with you, Aaron, the culture shock returning to the United States was far more intense than the culture shock
Really?
going to Nicaragua, because when I went to Nicaragua, I knew I would see my family again. I was going to come back in 2 months. But when I left Nicaragua, I had no idea that I was going to feel so sad to leave and that I might not ever see these people again. I keep in touch with them, but it was wild. It was a wild experience to have at age 18.
Geez, what a great experience, though, that most people never get. How fortunate. You know, we've been talking about the idea of joy a lot here at Pipeline, which is kind of a weird thing to talk about at work. But that's our purpose at Pipeline, not our mission for our customers, but our purpose internally is to promote joy in the lives of our team members. So we talk about joy. And it's something I think a lot about. And I think joy is people, right? It's relationships that you develop with people. It's giving yourself, your time, your talents to people. So that rings true with me. You know, everything you're saying about community and getting to know these people, eating in their homes, and like leaving 2 months later, not knowing if you'd be able to speak with them again. So that's very cool. Thanks for sharing that. Well, let's talk a little bit about the engineering side of your life. Can you share what is the title of your role right now, and walk us through like what's a typical week like for you? You know, what are some of the common tasks that you work on?
Yeah, so I work with the manufacturing teams, and I'm technically a manufacturing engineer, but really I'm a tool design engineer. So what that entails is working with tools and fixtures that are used in the manufacturing of the final product. And I might be designing one from scratch. I might be taking one that someone made 20 years ago and trying to fix it. Or I might be upgrading a design. And there's a lot that goes into each one of those categories. If I'm making a new design, I'm going to be in SolidWorks a lot, prototyping, using the 3D printer quite a bit, going to the machine shop if there is one, even doing PCB layouts. I'm also talking a lot with operators on the production floor, because ultimately they're my customers. They're the ones using my fixtures. So having lots of dialogue with them and the people in my department who are kind of helping decide what are the priorities here, where does your focus need to go. So it's a really cool job. It's very open-ended. I kind of feel, I've heard a term, employee, which is like a mix of an entrepreneur and an employee. So I take an entrepreneur mindset to my job, even though I'm an employee for a bigger company.
That's very cool. Well, what we do here at Pipeline is very much in alignment with what it sounds like you do. Lots of fixtures and tooling, custom equipment, automation. And I think that unless you're in that field, unless you're actually designing fixtures and tooling, you might hear those phrases and not really understand what they mean. Can you share a couple of examples? Like what is a fixture? What is that exactly? How are they used? Why are they needed?
Yeah, so in the context of maybe, let's say your final product is a medical device, which, let's say it's a pacemaker. Let's say it provides shocks to the heart and it's implanted in someone's body. Well, you need to test those shocks somehow. And you need to test them before the device is completely built in a sealed can, which is the way it's implanted in someone's body. You need to test it at the board level. So how do you do that? You build a fixture which can accommodate that. At that point of the manufacturing line, it can accommodate that device and interact with the device electromechanically to take the signals and test all of those test cases and send those signals to a computer and basically read out to you, yes, it's doing what it's supposed to. So you have to have custom tools to do that.
And do you do both the mechanical and the electrical side of things?
My focus is more on mechanical, but my major actually in college, it was biomedical engineering with a focus on electrical. So I have electrical background and I can do PCBs from scratch. I would say my skills are more advanced at the moment in mechanical. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's pretty typical, right? You just focus on the mechanical, but the fact that you have the background in electronics, PCB design, that's a pretty powerful combo.
Yeah, it is.
What's the most exciting thing that you have done to date as an engineer?
So I have had some cool projects at my jobs, and I've designed bed of nails fixture from scratch with very tight spacing requirements. And it was fantastic prototyping it from the start and seeing it go all the way to production. And that design took over a year easily. So it was a complex design. That was fantastic. I think the coolest thing I did was in college, though, because I ran and organized a design competition centered around Hurricane Harvey had just happened in 2018. And so this design competition was centered around designing for disaster relief. And we were able to raise funds and basically say, hey, students, get a team together, make an idea. You're required to meet with these mentors on campus. I went to the University of Texas, so they have a lot of great mentors there. And you have to present, and it's a design competition, and we have judges, and the winner is going to get money to continue making their design. And it was a really cool experience. I did it 1 year, and it was not very good, but I learned a lot. And so the second year, we had a lot of participation, and it was just really cool across the board, like a mini Y Combinator.
Wow. That sounds awesome, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me, what about actually working as an engineer is different than what you expected while you were going to school to become an engineer? If anything, maybe it's exactly the way you predicted. I don't know.
There's one thing that stands out here. It is very obvious that a simple lack of communication in school might not mean much, especially because a lot of your work is individual. Even in a group project, like the projects are only so long, they're finite, maybe a couple months. You might get a bad grade. But in the real world, if there is a lack of communication on a design aspect, that has massive consequences for so many people. If R&D designed something that was slightly off just because they didn't double check their dimensions, and all of a sudden we're going to production with something, it could be a nightmare for anyone in the manufacturing team who's dealing with that, all of the operators. And it's crazy how big of an effect it has when things are just simply not communicated like they should be. That's the biggest thing I've noticed.
Yeah, I agree. I was just talking with a customer of ours a little while ago. They manufacture medical devices. They're a contract manufacturer. And he was talking about how there's an operation that's being performed by their operators, and sometimes it doesn't get performed exactly right, And if that gets through their quality checks and goes into the field, and this is a medical device and it's being used on a patient, if that gets used and it doesn't operate the way it's supposed to, I mean, people's lives are at stake here, right? So it's a big deal to make sure that we're communicating correctly and things are getting done the way they're supposed to. And if you're not a little bit nervous about that risk, then you're probably doing something wrong or not in the right field. I had a boss back when I was a much younger engineer who would say that to do this job well, you have to be a little bit paranoid. And I've always remembered that. I thought it was a very accurate description of what it takes to be a good engineer.
Wow. I'm learning a lot just from hearing that you have to be paranoid. And
just
for
a
some
little
reason,
bit.
I'm just a little bit. And I've kind of been like that with schoolwork, just growing up. Like, I'm a little paranoid about getting my homework in on time, and
Yeah.
it's carried over to work. And I think it's served me well. And you and I both work in medical device industry. And like you said, if you mess up, you could be messing with someone's life. So it is really good to be a little paranoid. Um, and also just for the sake of the people you're working with, like, you don't want to make their work life, you don't want to put a burden on their work because you weren't careful with yours. So I think all around it's just good to double check your steps.
Absolutely. Yeah. I really do think that being a little paranoid makes you a better engineer, makes you a little bit more detail oriented. There's a phrase that Jim Collins, I don't know if you know Jim Collins, the author, he did like Good to Great and a bunch of other business books, but he coined the phrase productive paranoia. And that's I think a really good way to put it. Productive paranoia.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. Okay. What tool do you think is missing in your job as a design engineer that, if it existed, would allow you to work, better, faster, cheaper, etc.?
I would say that we have so many tools in this day and age. It's easy to overlook how powerful they are with SolidWorks and the 3D printers we do have, and being able to collaborate with people. But to do my job better as a tool designer, cheaper and faster, I would like to see 3D printers go to the next level. Now, they're good for prototyping, but I do not use 3D printed materials for production fixtures. They're just not close enough on the tolerances I need, and they're not quite high enough quality. Great for prototyping, but I do not use them in production just yet.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the Markforged printers?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, we use those a lot, and we really like those.
Okay, and you guys use them for production?
Sometimes, yeah. There are some limitations with the material for medical device production because let's see, we did some testing on it. I think it passed biocompatibility, but it failed cytotoxicity. So for R&D, all day long, we deliver, like final deliverable parts using these Markforged 3D printers. But depending on exactly what you're doing, where it is in the production flow, you may or may not be able to use those parts. But in general, we love those printers, and I mean, they have saved us a lot of time and money, and our customers a lot of time and money. I need to get paid by Markforged. I'm always touting how great their printers are. Seriously, Markforged, if you're listening, send me a check. Yeah.
They sent me a free sample one time of a metal bottle opener that's on my keys.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we don't have any of their metal 3D printers. We just use their carbon fiber and nylon 3D printers. But the parts are so strong, and the if you set it up right, the tolerances are very good. I mean, you're not going to get down to the 10,000ths of an inch or anything, but plus or minus a few thou, you'll hit that, and the parts are super strong, rigid, stiff, robust. So really great for fixtures and tooling and that sort of thing.
Huh. Yeah, carbon fiber is very strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. All right, well, I'm going to take a very short break here and share with the listeners that teampipeline.us is where you can learn more about how we help medical device and other product engineering or manufacturing teams develop turnkey equipment, custom fixtures, and automated machines to characterize, inspect, assemble, manufacture, and perform verification testing on your devices. And we're speaking with Sam Wicoff today. So, Sam, I think you're about 3 or 4 years into your career at this point. Is that right?
A little over 4 years. That's right.
Okay, a little over 4 years. So for all those managers and hiring directors out there who might be listening, Sam, can you share a little bit about what motivates you? What is it that drives you to show up each day, and what can leadership do to create an environment that fosters that motivation?
So I would say opportunity, and there's multiple facets to that, but the biggest one is the opportunity to make a big impact on an organization through my role. Also for me, the opportunity to grow personally as an engineer and the opportunity to have the resources to succeed. Those are the big components. And, for me, I'm a self-starter. I always kind of have been. I don't like being micromanaged. So for hiring managers listening, if you're looking for someone like that, basically giving them a clear definition of what the role is and what it is that you're going to do, and then just kind of letting me go. Like, that's just how I work. So if that's the type of person you're looking for.
Yeah. You changed jobs recently, right?
Yeah, I did a month or two ago.
Okay. Well, congratulations on the new role, first of all. What was it, either about what was missing at your old job or about what the new job offered, that convinced you it was worth making the switch?
Yeah. So the old job was a really fantastic way to start my career. After a while, it got to the point where there was a certain amount of sustaining work, which is not a knock on the company at all. That's just where they were at. And they had an established way of doing things. And if it was working for them, great. I needed something that would be a little more open-ended. So I found this new company, and I'm much more close to the manufacturing floor. There's a lot more that needs to be developed with fresh thinking. There's not an established way of doing things just yet. So it's actually a new role that I'm taking in this company. It has not been a role at this company yet until I've come to fill it. So, and there's other things too, like it's in Austin, Texas, and all of my family's in Houston. So it's nice to be closer to home. I went to school in Austin, I think I mentioned earlier. So it was a combination of other things, but as far as the job role, it mainly comes down to, how creatively can I be? How creative can I be in my new role, and how open-ended is it?
Yeah. So that's cool. There isn't already an established system or process or way of doing things. You're getting to invent that process right now. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, exactly. And that excites me. The interview process, I could hardly hold my excitement in, and the hiring manager could kind of sense that. And I'm like really eager to go and check it out. And I checked it out in person, and it was so cool to me, that idea. So
that's cool.
I was thrilled. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Time management is a big thing for all of us, and I think we all have our little time management hacks that we use. I'm curious, do you have any time management tricks or strategies that you've picked up over the years that you have found to be useful for you?
Yes, absolutely. And this is such an important topic to me. So we talked about my trip to Nicaragua earlier, and I knew that experience, this might seem off topic, but I'll come back to your question. I knew that experience would be fantastic, and I wanted to document it. So every day in Nicaragua, for the first time in my life, I had a moleskin journal, and I wrote every single morning. I journaled just what happened, how I felt about it. And over the course of some years, I kept journaling every so often. And during the pandemic, at the beginning, I got an idea. I've heard you talk about David Goggins in a couple of your shows, I think. And he's maybe my biggest influence. Oh,
cool.
So,
okay.
Yeah. He's incredible, but
impressive man for sure.
Yeah. He has this thing that he refers back to in the Army called after action reports, which is basically when you go on a mission after the fact, you write down what went well, what didn't, why not, how you felt during it. And it's really helpful to do that. And so almost 2 years ago, I decided I'm going to journal every single day and write out what my daily schedule is going to be, start to finish. And I used a combination of that, the David Goggins technique, but I also read a book by Cal Newport, who's a very good author. His book, Deep Work, resonated with me. It was basically time block your schedule. Like for these 2 hours, get your deep work. Like for yourself and myself, it might be designing a fixture in SolidWorks, turning off email alerts, and not getting distracted at all. And so for 2 straight years now, I have been documenting my daily routine, and I rank myself at the end of my day 1 through 10 based on how closely did I follow it. how disciplined was I in executing my routine? And I'll review myself weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly on that. And I've seen the numbers average out and go up and down. And I try to get like 8 and 8.5 every day out of 10. It's a weird system, but it works for me. And it kind of leads me to my next point, which is habits and being very habitual with your schedule. Because a lot of the times we're not going to feel like doing some of the tasks that we have. Engineering, I love it. And I love designing, but sometimes there are things we don't want to do. But when you have habits in place and you know that you need to work anyway, you're going to do those tasks because they need to be done. So I would say all of that. And it compounds over time. It's compound interest, but with discipline and just building good habits, dropping bad ones, and doing it at a young age, I think will just serve you so well going forward.
I'm so impressed that you do all that. Sincerely, I do a lot of those things, not even all of them, but I'm 42 and you're, I don't know what you are, 24 or something.
28.
28. Okay, 28. Right. I was not doing those things at 28. I can tell you that. And I'm really, really impressed the level of detail and the dedication to that process that you have. I mean, that's huge. And I have no doubt that I can already tell that you're a high performing person. And for people out there listening to this, these are the things that high performing people do. They track themselves, they rate themselves, they have very defined schedules for themselves. So that's I'm very, very impressed, and just so nice to hear, that that's the way that you work. Thank you for sharing that.
Appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. You also had sorry to butt in there real quick, but you had a episode recently with Zach White that I listened to, and I just want to say one other note. He talked about passive learning, where you're basically just listening to audio, you're digesting material, but you're not actually taking action. And one of the biggest things to get better at is actually getting in the habit of taking action. And so I took notes on that podcast episode, for example. Sometimes things resonate with me. So taking notes on things and really just being more deliberate about taking decisive action, I think is huge.
I love it. Agree 100%. Having a bias towards action, I think, is another sign of a high-performing person. It's so easy to, you spend all your time in CAD and you get all the details just perfect in CAD. You select all the components. Well, yeah, maybe, but can you go out onto the floor and just build something real quick? Get some straws and duct tape if you have to, but build something quickly and see how it works, and use that to learn and iterate. So a bias towards action, I think, is super, super important. I think you go a lot further. You reach success a lot quicker if you'll just try something and fail, rather than spending so much time planning on how you're going to do something.
Absolutely.
All right. What is the funnest thing that you've done in your life? It can be completely unrelated to work.
Yeah. So my 4th year of college, I had the opportunity to go study at the University of Cambridge in England.
Wow. That's cool.
So it was so cool. It was a Maymester, and the guy who started the biomedical engineering department at the University of Texas, his name was Dr. Kenneth Diller. He ran this program. So a group of about 20 students, we all lived there for a month, and we studied biotransport, thermodynamics in the body. I think he was a witness expert on the famous or the infamous McDonald's coffee case, where a lady got
so ridiculous.
For those who don't know what that is, a lady got a 3rd-degree burn because McDonald's coffee was too hot and she spilled it on her leg. And so we actually worked through that problem in the class.
Oh, wow.
Saying, that's the type of stuff we worked on. Did she actually get a 3rd-degree burn based on the properties of the skin and how hot the coffee was, how long it was on her skin? So,
and what did you find? Did she get a 3rd-degree burn?
Yes, she absolutely got a 3rd-degree burn.
Okay. Legit case then, despite all the mockery.
Right. So McDonald's had to like make their coffee not as hot, I think.
That's pretty cool.
It was an incredible experience. There's a lot of history there. What was it? The guys who discovered DNA, Watson and Crick, the bar that they announced that at, I think in 1951, was right down the street.
Wow.
Isaac Newton studied there. The guy who, I'm not going to remember his name, the guy who did theoretical physics who died recently, he was in a wheelchair for most of his life.
Stephen Hawking.
I can't think of it. Stephen Hawking, yes. His office was down the hall in our
Really? Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
I didn't see him, but yeah, he was right there.
How neat.
It was incredible. So just an incredible experience to see where some of history's best scientists and engineers have studied. I'll always cherish that experience. And just going around Europe too was very fun as well because I was over there. So
amazing. What a cool experience. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, along those lines, Cambridge, what's one thing that you're learning now, either in your personal or professional life?
I would say that nothing is given. You have to earn everything. And even if something is given, whether that's an opportunity that you got or someone's helping you out and just says, here's a gift, I don't think it serves you to have the mentality that things are given out. I think having the right mentality is the way forward, and having to earn everything. That's just the mentality I go with every single day. And I just hope it serves me well moving forward.
Not having that entitlement mentality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. We're entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but nothing else. Everything else you got to earn.
Right. Yeah, that's it. We have a lot, we have a lot to be grateful for here, especially in the United States. There's so much to be grateful for, but that doesn't mean you should just sit back and expect everything's going to be great. Like, you got to go get after it.
Amen, brother. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Sam, how can people get a hold of you?
I would just say LinkedIn. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to message you about anything. I love talking about all the stuff we've been talking about on this episode. So please reach out. I'm out there.
Terrific. Well, Sam, this is the first time, I guess it's technically not the first time. I think we met at MD&M and maybe talked briefly there, but first time that we've really had a conversation, and I'm super impressed with you. You're clearly a very high-performing individual, and I have no doubts whatsoever that you're going to go very far in this life. So thank you again for spending some time with me, and it's just been a delight getting to know you. Man,
Aaron, that is such a compliment. I really appreciate you having me on here. My confidence is feeling very good right now. So
Good. It awesome. Should. I'm Aaron Monker, founder of Pipeline Design and Engineering. If you liked what you heard today, please share the episode. To learn how your team can leverage our team's expertise developing turnkey equipment, custom fixtures, and automated machines, and with product design, visit us at teampipeline.us. Thanks for listening.